Hi, I'm Hacking Crimes, or Air if you prefer.
And I am Jareka.
And I'm Jay, your DM, and this is Insight Check, where we delve into the dungeon of your bad decisions and retrieve the treasure of wisdom. Alright guys, we're back. I am returned from PAX. I am a new Jay. I have been revitalized, refreshed, other R words.
Resuscitated.
That's a good one.
Rubicon.
Ooh.
Alright. At least you're participating, and that's what's important.
Do I get a ribbon? That's an R word.
Last week in Dungeons & Dragons, nothing interesting at all happened.
Not a thing.
Unfortunately, nothing good happened, so
No.
I guess we're just not going to be doing...
The dungeons were closed, the dragons just didn't even come out.
I guess we're not going to be crawling in any dungeons today. I didn't see anything life-affirming.
Talking about at all.
No.
Nothing like a self-insert by the god of Perkins himself.
Well, you know, it's kind of funny because we recently recorded an Insight Check where we did already talk about...
Do you want to talk about something else?
Well, no, I want to talk about that, but it's already been taken from me by El Ninja Cupcake, living up to her title for once, ninjaing this topic away from me. No, so we will discuss something else that happened in Dungeons & Dragons. I don't know where we'll find the content. I mean, there's only one good show. Of course, there are so many good D&D things happening all the time that it's hard to keep up. Speaking of which, we talked about this briefly in our Critical Role / C-Team upcoming podcast a few weeks ago. But now, the Silhouette Watch is over. They've released the official art of the Critical Role team.
Sure,
for you guys, this was a couple weeks ago. But for us, it's current news. And thank God we're not a news show, so we don't have to be relevant.
I think you meant topical.
We don't have to be relevant.
No, I meant what I said, Air.
It's fine.
We don't have to be relevant. And frequently, we're not.
Well, when you're done gushing about the silhouettes, I got some DCA to gush about. So take your time.
Well, they're not silhouettes any longer. They're released art now. And by the way, you bastards. You sneaky bastards. They removed Knot's ears and Jester's tail to make it more difficult. Can you believe this, Air? Can you believe this chicanery?
That is the perfect word for that.
So have you seen the most recent episode? And if you have, what was your favorite part?
Well, on my summer vacation, no, I haven't seen it yet. I think the YouTube version comes out tomorrow, Thursday, but that would be last Thursday. For you who are listening now.
So did you get spoiled hard?
Super hard. Well, I know who all the characters are. I know who's playing what.
You didn't watch it?
No, I was...
It
because I'm on the East Coast, so 7 o'clock their time is 10 o'clock
But I mean,
my time.
it's been on
Sure
YouTube
is.
for like 3 days now.
It has?
Yeah, it comes out on Monday.
Oh, oops.
Let me just say it's great. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say.
You've watched it?
I watched the first 2 hours because I wanted to see who was who and what was what. And
No, it's good. Those are the only important hours. The last 2 hours is literally like one long combat, so
Oh,
it's
boy.
fine.
Sounds like Critical Role.
Yep, it's a Critical Role still. But yeah, okay, as the only person here who's watched it and can't even spoil much because my crew haven't watched it, here's the Spoilers Light edition of Silhouette Watch. They look great! Moving on.
And there's already some amazing fan art out there. Like, I saw one
God, so
where
much.
Ashley's character, she's a tall
Yasha.
person. She's standing there. And then to the left of her is Sam's character and Laura's character boosting
Chester.
Marisha's character
Beauregard.
to hand Yasha a flower.
Yes.
Because they're in love.
Because
they love each other.
There was
and they belong together.
There was a slightly shippy moment between them that the fandom has lunged on.
Is Sam already flirting with... Is Sam's character
No,
already
this
flirting
was
with Ashley's
this
character?
was between Beauregard, Marisha's character, and Yasha, Ashley's character.
Oh, the monk and the Aasimar
Yes.
barbarian.
Yeah.
Indeed, there was a slightly shippy moment. I mean, I wouldn't even say it's slightly. It was a shippy moment. But it was, it has launched 1,000 ships. Entire fleets are in the ocean.
I think it's just one ship.
Nope.
No, it's more.
Yeah, you gotta have the ship where she's the dominant personality and the other one's the dominant personality, and then the ship where they're both asexual, and then exactly. There's a lot of variations.
I was just in my one box, and you've opened my eyes.
Exactly. Shipping has unlimited potential. The secret to unlimited energy is to tap into the power of the shippers. You give them like 10 minutes of screen time between two characters, and they will create thousands of hours of interactions.
I propose a faster-than-light engine powered purely by the
fan fiction
ardor of fan ships.
Fan friction drive.
Whoa!
Very meta.
I like it.
Yes.
Now that I've peaked and will never again achieve this level of comedy prowess, how about you continue with DCA?
Yes, indeed. So we just watched last week's episode, which is DCA 77. And let me just go over the highlights. So Rachel from Girls Guts Glory was a guest, and I have to say that I love Girls Guts Glory in theory. I've seen probably an episode and a half, but it's a great show. So it was really, really nice to see her.
Time is the enemy.
Sure is. That's why I only watched the first half of Critical Role. So she was actually looking for 2 of her party. So I think she was probably looking for her party, and it sounded like they got kidnapped and left her. So
I really want to go back and watch Girls Guts
Glory. I know,
Glory
it's
now.
all coming together.
On.
So, and there's a lot of great cameos in this episode. I don't want to ruin anything, but just like Ash from Pokemon, they're collecting new and exciting semi-sentient friend creatures.
It's true.
And yeah, it was pretty great. I have to hand it to Nate for coming up with a plan that seems to have worked. Not that he's an idiot, but just surprising.
He has a history with plans. Yeah. It's not a great history, but it is a history.
There was a lot of interesting excitement from the Strix arena about lots of things, and there was
fungi, something that's in your wheelhouse.
Sporishness. And there was a lovely flower interlude, which I really want to see fan art for.
I was here for that. Mm-hmm. I was in the house for that moment.
Yay.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great episode. A lot more levity than maybe we've had in the last couple weeks, and surprisingly so, considering the kind of dramatic mission that everybody was on. I look forward to seeing the guests return, hopefully, next week. Also, I'm very curious when the timeline are going to conjoin with the live show and stuff, because it'll be very funny when they get into the tomb and they're trapped, and then, they realize that the curse is no longer in effect.
Isn't that interesting? I am interested to see what happens there, because technically the Soulmonger was destroyed in the AI game at PAX South.
I would be surprised if we don't see some sort of lingering remains of that creature.
Did you also see Chris Perkins' somewhat cryptic tweet right before PAX South? So he asked the D&D community at large, aka his Twitter followers, if any of the groups that were playing Tomb of Annihilation had successfully completed the whole adventure. And he said something about rewarding the crew with the honor of defeating it or something like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he had a bigger game plan going.
Yeah, I think we've seen the last of Acquisitions incorporated in the Tomb, but I think that the Waffle Crew is going to get the more deep experience of
Could be.
By which I mean they're going to die in the Tomb of Annihilation.
I mean, that's what the opening credit run suggests. Yes. I mean, it wouldn't be a shock.
It was really cool. It was really interesting seeing Chris Perkins describe the exterior of puzzles that are actually in the Tomb of Annihilation as the Acquisitions Inc. people kind of maneuvered their way around the behind the scenes of the tomb. because literally he was describing like the exterior portion of real traps inside the Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah, that's what I figured, and I had a small exchange, I think, with Haley about it, and we thought it was really, really cool that he decided to do it that way, especially since there's probably groups out there that are either in the tomb now or, you know, approaching it that want to watch this game, and so, you know, you don't want to spoil, you know, the whole tomb, you know, that's not great.
Right, like when he skipped over the solution to the puzzle at the door, and he's like, DMs everywhere are pleading with me not to reveal this right now.
So we thought it was very, very clever, and, you know, we would expect nothing less from the god of D&D himself.
Sometimes on this show, Ayer gets to do a dungeon crawl.
I was like, what are we doing now? No.
I have a quick one, which was a recommendation.
You can have a long one. I mean, you don't have to rush.
I'm not. I'll be good. So I
you are good.
So I have a quick recommendation today, just for anyone who might be a D&D fan and a Star Wars fan. I know there might be some cross-pollination there. I am going to recommend to you a series of funny pages, darthsandroids.net, which is a retelling of the Star Wars movies as if they were D&D campaigns.
Not just D&D campaigns, but like old school AD&D second edition kind of campaigns.
Yes, very old school, where the kind of window dressing of it is the DM has gussied up Dungeons and Dragons to be a fancy ray guns and spaceships sort of high sci-fi setting, and the players are going through. So it starts with the prequels, because why not? So if you wanted to watch The Phantom Menace as if it was an old school D&D adventure, D&D campaign.
It makes so much more sense when idiot players are making these decisions.
Yeah, like Jar Jar is played by the little sister of one of the players who had to like babysit her that night. Like it makes the prequels bearable. It makes the prequels, I might even say, enjoyable. It is very cute. It is very funny. It is very tongue-in-cheek. darthsandroids.net. Check it out.
I've been reading it ever since you mentioned it, and I have no regrets except for the expenditure of my time.
That is probably the only regret you could have from it, so you have all the regrets possible. I'm sorry.
No, okay, let me say it in a way that doesn't make you feel bad.
I'm kidding. I don't actually feel bad.
I really enjoyed it. It's good. Read it.
Sterling recommendation.
Sometimes on this show, we answer questions. And now
is one of those times.
Presented by PBS.
With the donation that you will give us today, this is how we fund the program.
Oh yeah, here we go. It's like here we can do the fake commercial, you know. Ding, ding, ding. This presentation brought to you by PBS. And then we have to get sued by PBS. Like, no, we didn't. We didn't make this. Don't blame this on us. This isn't our fault.
That wouldn't be a commercial though. That would be like we'd have to do a whole telethon in the middle of our podcast.
Guys, you're going to get the second half of this podcast just as soon as you call in right now at my personal phone number and give me $5 so that I can buy dinner. I promise you're going to get some great podcast content. I've got questions here on my phone. You could get them if you just call in now to this personal phone number that I'm about to get flashing at the bottom of your screen.
Let's stop this now.
Let's go to the phones. Jerica?
No, Haley is embarrassed for us right now. We have to stop so that Haley isn't embarrassed. Lay the questions on me, Jay.
Alright, weekly question thread 140. 5e, but system agnostic. Are there any good-natured fae beings that can, or would, kidnap infants and raise them as their own? Emphasis on the good alignment.
Not all of us were raised in the perfect home. So, yes.
It's true.
That is a thing that could possibly be.
Being raised in an Archfey home. If there's one rule that is always like brought up about parenting, it's consistency. I think a Archfey home would be very inconsistent. I think it would be very chaotic. And
I feel like mythologically, fey creatures, swapping out fey creatures with infants is a very, like, it's a very mythic story, right?
It's a fable
you could
kind
be...
of story. I don't know if it's
Whoa.
a myth.
Ah, that's true, yeah. You could be the fey creature sent into this world at the cost of a family's child, or you could be the child sent to the Feywild who's now returned to civilization and has to understand, like, normal world policies and rules. It would be an interesting origin for your hero. It would certainly give you a unique perspective. As for what fey creature could do this, I think any Seelie fey could theoretically kidnap a child if they see it as for the child's own good. Maybe a Seelie fey sees like a city and thinks, oh god, nothing should have to live here. Oh god, I'm taking this child away now. That could be their good, in their eyes, justification for snatching up a kid. It doesn't... I think the important thing with fey is that they don't have to make sense to human logic. They just have to make sense to their own internal logic.
Is a Seelie Fae different than a normal Fae?
So there are Seelie and unseelie Fae.
Like
the
Lossy
Seelie Fae are
less.
sort of.
Some of
Seelie
jaggy
is
edges.
Seelie is the summer court, whereas unseelie is the winter
Gotcha.
court. The Seelie
Gloomy
Fae are
court.
good quotation marks, and the unseelie are bad quotation marks. But really, it comes down to the unseelie are sort of the manifestation of the grim, terrifying fey creatures you hear of in legends, goblins, God, oh man, what are these? The red somethings.
The little Nomi guys with the beards.
Red caps. The red caps. One of my favorite D&D monsters. They're just little balls of rage and hatred. They carry around giant sickles and metal boots.
That's the sound they make.
They have little metal boots that they use to stomp you to death, and they have sickles, and their hats are colored red and stuck to their heads because it's so soaked in blood that it is caked onto them.
So you're saying that's a Seelie Fae?
That is an unseelie Fae.
Gotcha.
That is an evil Fae. And then the Seelie Fae would be like Titania, the queen of the summer court.
Like Fia?
Yeah, Fia would fall into the summer court for sure. She would be a fey creature who is aligned with the good energies, the positive energies of the Feywild. She would be a manifestation. See, because all things in the Feywild are ultimately manifestations of things in the prime material plane. So they are just like extremely exaggerated versions, which kind of pushes fey creatures to the ends of the moral alignments. You don't see a lot of neutral Feywild creatures.
Could a Seelie Fae masquerade as an unseelie Fae?
Certainly. I think that you see a lot of... In fables, you see a lot of the kind of mischievous and devious fey creature, like Puck. Puck the Trickster, classic Feywild figure who maybe plays with alignments a little fast and loose. Puck is not evil, but he's certainly not good either. But either way, I think that there's a lot of ways that you could manifest a Fey parentage without necessarily going out of bounds. I think that Feywild are ultimately up to their own devious ends, and whether they're good or bad, they are not kind. They are mischievous tricksters who would be quite happy to kidnap a child.
Can you be good without being kind?
You can.
Yes.
You can be a good person who does good things, but be ultimately kind of selfish, as long as your selfish desires manifest in positive ways.
What?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Exactly.
Who?
Bert is good. Bertrand Beestinger is good without being kind, I think.
I think Bert is very kind to Bert.
To Bert.
I was just going to say, yeah, you could do a great fish out of water story after some, on a whim, Faye takes a child and raises them as their own in, like, the summer court or something like that. To have them come back to the prime material and be like, what the hell is this day and night bullshit? Or, like, why does time work so quickly here? There'd be a lot of, like, just prime facets of life that they would have taken for granted because the prime material is so different from the Feywild.
Oh, absolutely. Here's weekly question thread number 134. A provocative question. An evocative question. 5e. Should legendary reactions exist?
Here's the deal. If it benefits me, it should.
Legendary actions and reactions are an exclusively monster trait, so unfortunately this would not help you.
Are you saying I'm not a monster?
You're a monster!
A motherfucking monster! So the thing about legendary actions is they kind of are legendary reactions, like, because you get to do them on any player's turn you want. I guess, technically speaking, at the end of any player's turn, you get to insert another action. They're kind of in a weird spot where they're somewhat both, because I guess there's no triggering.
So let's expand the question. Should legendary actions exist?
Oh, I think they for sure need to exist in order for a big bad guy to have any sort of chance of matching up against multiple well-leveled PCs.
Well, let's look at some of the times that you guys have fought something with legendary actions. So far, there's been the Aboleth, which is one. The Rimmeraz, I believe, had legendary actions, or did they?
No, it had
no, I don't think the Rimmeraz did.
No, it had one really big attack, and then if it grappled you, it got to eat you on the next turn.
Yeah, so the Aboleth is really the only main creature you fought with legendary actions, which is, by the way, incredible. It's in-fucking-credible that you've only fought one thing with legendary actions, because they are my favorite thing to give a boss.
Yeah.
I slap legendary actions on everything.
To answer the question, because the only way I could think that legendary reactions would be a thing is that it's like a reaction you can take multiple times in a round, because otherwise, just a normal reaction is you can do what you want. So you'd have to, like, you only get one around, but...
I could see giving something like that to spellcasters, maybe giving them multiple counter spells or something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but that's what I'm worried about breaking. It's like, oh, well, half your party didn't get to do anything because it could counterspell multiple times. I think the reason you only get one reaction around is to limit mechanics like that.
Right, but it depends on the size of the party, I guess.
Yeah.
If your creature has 3 legendary actions and you're fighting 8 players and 4 of them are spellcasters, then maybe letting it burn some of those legendary actions for counterspell is not so bad, because there's 4 spellcasters and you've got to mitigate some of that massive DPS somehow. That said, it doesn't feel great to be a player in a campaign and to be getting counterspelled nonstop. So you gotta kind of choose your battles here. Maybe you make counterspell 2 legendary actions, so it's a little more of a choice. So you get one for free, and then the second one comes at kind of a high price. So the players at least, well, hey, I burned 2 of his legendary actions. That's going to increase our options as the round goes on. So it still doesn't feel useless. You still accomplish something.
Well, I think they're talking about an entirely separate part of, like, an entirely new part of the action economy, right?
No, I think if you add legendary reactions, you've definitely got to make them come from the same pool, because the action economy is going to get fucked if they have 6 things they can do every round. Yeah, and that's another thing. Maybe you could make legendary reactions come out of the resistance pool, make them like one and done things. So, like, yes, you can counterspell their big spell, but you used one of your 3 ever legendary resistances. That might be a good way to balance it.
Yeah, I was also thinking that legendary reactions could be specific. Like, it could be you get 2 or 3 attacks of opportunity in a round as opposed to 1.
That would be really cool for, like, a melee character.
All possible. Yeah.
Yeah, basically the rule of thumb with monsters is they can do whatever you want them to be able to do, as long as you can make it not feel like horseshit to your players. If you give your monster 6 legendary actions a turn, and there are 4 players, then you have done a bad thing. You have done a bad thing to your players. There's more legendary actions than players. You're going to be eating them alive. Every time they do anything, you get to immediately react by just beating them over the head. I don't think you should have... It just depends on the size of your party and how strong they are and what kind of magic items you've given. But should legendary reactions exist? Yeah, maybe. If it makes a cool thing for your monster. If it makes your guy able to do more attacks of opportunity. If it makes them able to counterspell more. To be more of a threat. I guess that'd be fine. As with anything in D&D, it's just about what works at your table.
Yep.
Shrika, can you think of anything?
I only have one thing on the brain.
What's that?
So Circle of Spores Druid uses reactions as a main mechanic.
Really?
It does, yes. So you can use your reaction on your turn to shoot a halo of spores at a creature. And if the creature dies from the level-based damage, if it's a humanoid, it will turn into a zombie under your power.
Your reaction on your turn?
Yes.
That's so weird.
Yeah, so they're definitely messing with the action economy with that, but a lot of the damage that Circle of Spores, I think exclusively the kind of damage that Circle of Spores abilities does is poison. So I think there are a lot of creatures that either have resistance to poison or immunity.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Huh. Like a lot of creatures that actually do poison damage as well might not, get affected by it. So I think they are kind of tossing this out there in a sort of it's a soft lob in a way. Like it isn't, ice damage or something. Or force damage.
Okay, cool, interesting. I need to look at that UA more in depth.
So I played a game with Circle of Spores last week, which would be 2 weeks ago, and I was up against things that had poison immunity. So it was a real bummer. Obviously, concentrating on the other creatures that didn't have it is a big part of, what I was thinking of in combat. But yeah, it's a really interesting subclass, I think. And now it's available on D&D Beyond, so have at it.
Absolutely. D&D Beyond, by the way, the greatest and best thing to happen to D&D in a very long time. Give us a sponsorship.
Give us a sponsorship.
You just sponsored Critical Role. Aren't we the next logical choice?
Obviously.
Yeah, exactly. So, our dear friend Raph Duvall Santos has left us a question.
Oh, hi.
This is a question that maybe y'all are not so equipped to answer, but I'll give it a shot.
We'll make sure that you don't bloviate for too long.
Right. I'm about to DM a new table, and many of them are Pathfinder and 3.5e players. And this is their first ever 5e game. 5e is all I know. What kind of systems must I be ready to bump into? Or can consider homebrewing into my game for them to feel more comfortable? So, let's journey back into the distant past of 3.5. Woo! I think that this transition would have been a lot harder a year ago than it would be now. Because what a 3.5 and Pathfinder player is ultimately really used to is massive variety and choice in options. So what you see is 3.5 players come to 5th edition and they find it very restraining because the player's handbook is the only source of extra classes, really. I mean, you have the Sword Coast Adventurers Guide, which was a great little kick in the butt to get a few extra classes in there, but there weren't that many extra options out there. Unearthed Arcana helps a lot, but it's difficult to allow Unearthed Arcana blanket because it can be highly imbalanced. And it's difficult to go through all of Unearthed Arcana and parse what's important and what's not, what's good and what's not. But fortunately for us, it is not a year ago, and Xanathar's Guide to Everything has come out, which gives us a ton of options for players. More than doubles your options for a lot of classes. I mean, the fighter went from really 2 options to 5. I mean, a tremendous increase in variety. So I think that right now, it's a lot easier for those kind of players to adjust. What you may want to consider for a 3.5 crew is offering them a bonus feat at first level, and maybe having that bonus feat be anything that doesn't offer a stat improvement or a damage increase. So you can choose a bunch of skills, but you limit it away from the ones that are necessarily min-max related or combat related. You give them some options to expand their character, maybe get some more skills or some more abilities, things like that, to increase options in those regards. Because a 3.5 and a Pathfinder player is going to be used to having a ton of options and getting a feat every 4 levels, like we get ability score increases, and then getting an ability score increase every 4 levels offset from the main one. So basically every 2 levels in Pathfinder, you're getting something huge that's like changing your character permanently. If you want it to feel like 3.5 in Pathfinder, make sure that you stop every 10 minutes to read the rules.
Oh, sick burn.
Make sure you confirm every
Oh yeah,
critical.
confirm the criticals, of course. That's a Pathfinder thing.
Critical.
So in this game, you not only have to roll a natural 20, you have to then roll high enough to hit to confirm the critical. Otherwise, you just hit. So with a natural 20, you just hit. But if you natural 20 and then roll again and still hit, then you critically hit and you just double your damage across
Let me
the board.
tell you something else I love about Circle of Spores, Druid. At level 14, they ignore critical damage.
Oh.
Anyway, continue.
Oh.
Yeah, no, in 5th edition, that's very useful. In 3rd edition and Pathfinder, the numbers get very, very big. Stupidly big. Just absolutely. Somebody was talking about dire elephants have a plus 23 to climb.
Dire elephants climb.
Reddit the other day.
Words I cannot comprehend. All right, cool.
Dire elephants have a plus 23 to climb, which means that a dire elephant cannot roll less than a 33 on a climb check, which means that they can climb up slippery surfaces and vertical surfaces. I mean, but the thing is like, can you imagine a dire elephant climbing the side of a cliff or something?
This is Hannibal crossing the Alps.
It's like, boop, done.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's Hannibal crossing the Alps, yeah, but with magical fantasy elephants.
There is actually a roll table out there called Weak Magic Items, and you just roll and it randomly generates you a magical item with a minor effect. It's a great way to give out magic items to low-level parties, and for a 3rd edition party and a Pathfinder party, it might be a really good way to make it feel more like they're getting rewards and getting more items than they necessarily are. Because these items are very niche and weaker. Everything is equivalent to weaker than a +1 item on weak magic items. It's a very handy roll table. And it gives you a good place to start with making magical items. You sometimes have to customize them to make them make a little more sense, but it's generally quite good. My general advice, just be prepared for people who are used to having a little bit more options. Maybe bone up on some Unearthed Arcana options so you can increase what they've got even more. And then add in some weak magical items early on in the game so that they can feel like they're getting that sense of progression that they're used to. So I hope that helps. I hope that you have a great game. I think your players are going to love 5th edition once they get used to it. I honestly played Pathfinder for a while saying to my friends, I'm not going to play 5th edition. That's a dumb game for Babby's first RP. And now I would literally...
Had you read any of it at that point?
I had. The thing is that 5th edition is very much simplified from Pathfinder 3.5. And at the time, being an elitist idiot, I thought that meant it was worse, but it didn't. It meant that it was simpler. It meant that it was easier to play and enjoy.
Streamlined, yes.
Right. It was just, there was a lot less to manage. Read the grappling rules from 3.5, and then read the grappling rules from 5th edition, and then tell me why anybody still plays the other one. From Weekly Question Thread 140, Fred Belly asks us, I need to be the best spy ever in my next session. What spells or magic items could I wrangle up to spy and report back to my home nation before the end of next session?
What level?
What class? What?
Listen, we're assuming a full host of features. He can get anybody he needs. He's got access to everything. We're assuming a 15th level adventurer.
Okay.
So 7th level spells. What's that?
I
my
wish I was
go-to.
an amazing spy.
Yep.
That is the thing that a 7-year-old boy wishes for when they get a genie. I want to be an awesome spy.
Yeah.
Boots of Elvenkind, good for sneaking.
Boots of Elvenkind are good for sneaking. The Cloak of Elvenkind. It offers disadvantage on perception checks to see you. Even better. But it requires one of your attunement slots. So there's that.
How many attunement slots does a standard human have?
Oh,
Three.
Wow.
Three. So Ring of Invisibility, obviously a great magical item.
Yeah.
For sneaking. For sneak.
Sneaking. Or a hat of disguise if they need to take on alternate personalities.
Yes. How are we going to get word back to our home nation, though?
Message.
Sending, yeah.
Message or sending is good. Sending is across the planes, too, isn't it? So
Animal messenger.
it's a slightly slower method, but it could work.
Magic mouth.
Magic mouth. You put magic mouth on a rock and you just throw it and hope.
Go! No, you put it on a coconut and
put
then
it on
the
an
swallow
animal
comes.
messenger.
Yeah, exactly. True polymorph. A rock into a bird to carry your magic mouth.
Oh gosh, it's getting a little complicated.
Also deliver a magic mouth instead of sending. I think if we're talking about the ultimate spy, I don't think a rogue is the ultimate spy.
What do you think, Eldritch Knight Fighter? Is that what you think, Jay?
No.
Okay.
Divination wizard, because they don't even need to go in. They can
Bam.
scry, they can detect thoughts, they don't even need to
Could
be near
be.
anything. I love that detect thoughts, like there's a lot of spells in the whole divination school where it's like, but this can be blocked by like X amount of feet of stone, Y amount of feet of wood, or a thin layer of lead.
Lead.
Yeah, but yeah,
Lead
you just...
is the condom barrier of D&D spells.
thoughts.
You have to consider at high levels the classic scry and fry tactic, which is when players use scry on an enemy, then teleport to their location, then unleash all their highest level spells on them. The classic.
I don't know if that's what this person's after.
Right, but as an ultimate spy, you have to
You
be
also
prepared.
want to murderate everyone, I see.
Well, you have to be prepared for the scry and fry. If you're the ultimate spy, you're prepared for everything. So therefore, you have to have aura of non-detection.
I was going to say Nistel's magic aura, yeah.
Yeah, you need that non-detection magics as well. I think you're going to have to be a wizard to be the ultimate spy.
That was my general thought.
Yeah, I think invisibility, I think teleportation, I think Mistel's magic aura, like you were saying.
Maybe
Those are...
with a disguise so that you look like a rogue, so everyone's like, obviously it's the rogue, but no.
Right, you're gonna miss out on those 45 stealth rolls. But you're gonna gain the ability to literally bamf out of any bad situation. It's like, oh, this has gone completely balls up. Well, teleportation circle, give me 1 minute and I will be anywhere else. The one that lets you come out of your body, that's also good.
Tell me more about that.
There's one where you can, like, walk out of your, like, your soul can leave your body and
Astral
it goes into...
projection, yeah.
Yes, astral projection.
Yeah.
You can even go into, like, the astral sea with that.
Could you banishment? So could you do that on yourself?
There's also plane shift, yeah. Banishment.
Plane shift is and there's pocket dimension spells as you get higher up to let you
Rope
create
trick?
little
Rope trick's definitely one of them. Yep.
Thanks, Jim. Dark magic. Wink.
Oh, you could use Soul Jar as the ultimate spy. Soul Jar would be very useful.
soldier.
It works for every spell.
Soul Jar is a spell that lets you project your soul out of your body into a jar, and then if anybody comes close to you, you can swap your soul for theirs, and their soul goes into the jar, and you go into their body.
Tasha's hideous laughter.
Is that a good... That seems like a very indiscreet spell.
But I mean, if you do that to if you do that to other people, though, like...
It's true,
They're
but it seems like there
about
would be
them and not
It seems
you.
like there would be a lot of signs of your intrusion, though. If you just got like laughing maniacs on the hallways. You just do the dancing one instead, and then it's like, oh, it's just very festive in here. Everybody's really
irresistible dance, yeah.
yeah. It's just everybody's just really excited to dance today.
Best part about that one is there is no save. So I think we might have been answering your question.
Yeah, I think what we've discovered is that the ultimate spy is a wizard.
Done. Your question is now answered, Reddit.
Great.
Be thankful.
You're welcome.
Bow down.
Thank you, one and all, for joining us on another exciting edition of Insight Check. As always, if you need your questions answered, please send them to @InsightCheckPod or with the hashtag InsightCheck. We want to thank Amy T. Falcone,
Amy the Falcon.
for being the incredible artist behind our images and avatars that we use pretty much everywhere. We want to thank Vinswept for making the incredible song Never Stand Alone, which we play at the beginning and end of every episode. It never gets old, and honestly, there's a little pulse of endorphins, I believe Jerica once said, that I feel when I hear that song now, because I know it's insight check time.
I sure did.
Other than that, if you really enjoyed the show and you're still feeling like you haven't done enough just by being wonderful and amazing community that surrounds the show, then we would absolutely appreciate a review and rating on iTunes, preferably positive one.
It's up to you.
It's ultimately up to you. You have to make that call.
We don't want you to feel like we're pressuring you.
Grandma Jerica is here to tell you that you're not under any pressure.
This is Grandma Jerica.
Okay, anyway. Aunt Jerica from Brooklyn? I don't know.
From Brooklyn, eh?
We got lost in the sauce.
Leave a positive review on iTunes, please.
Right, and as always,
we're answering your cues from our collective A's. This
was
Insight Check.
Damn it!
Haha!
Do. The metrics of Twitter blow my mind all the time. Because, like, Dog Rates will have 4 million followers. Elton fucking Rocket Man John.
Official,
yeah. 665,000 followers.
Think about the time when he was popular.
I
Think
know.
about the people who were coming of age at that time.
Yeah.
Think about how often those people use computers and or social media at this point. Maybe it'll become more clear to you.
But the other account just says dog. 12 through 14 out of 10. And it has 4 million followers. Okay, but the metrics still, because Lin-Manuel Miranda has, I think, like 2 million followers. He is still half as effective as We Rate Dogs.
I mean, We Rate Dogs is cute dogs.
So, and I mean, when you're on the internet, that's home field advantage, so.